Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. I'm your host, the Innkeeper, and this is your live call-in talk show all about the Wheel of Time. And tonight, we are back again doing a deep dive. But I think this is a different flavor of a deep dive because we're doing a character deep dive. One that I've been looking forward for quite a long time. And I put a poll out there talking about who is your favorite Forsaken. And this is a character deep dive on Ishamael. And I'm going to end this poll in a little bit, but I think a lot of people had fun with the choices that are there. But we here at the Dusty Wheel, our favorite Forsaken is Ishamael. Well, the Tarvalon location of the Dusty Wheel. Let me clear that, I guess. But there's a couple other things I want to show. I think we have some news that I wasn't expecting yesterday, but the fact that we do have that right now. I just am checking something. Okay, sorry. So let me show you what we have coming up on the Dusty Wheel in the next few weeks. This is something you've probably seen a lot on social media, but I am really excited to see this. So let me show you this. So yeah, we are having What Idol, the third edition, coming up very soon next month. And as you can see, the submission deadline is April 3rd. And I am really excited to see what kind of parodies we're going to have coming up. And I am excited to talk about this with our guest tonight, too. Let me introduce to the Dusty Wheel, Rajesh and Jessica Sedai. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Hello.
Hi.
Jessica, this is your first appearance on the Dusty Wheel.
Yes, it is.
How are you doing?
Yes, it is. Good. How are you?
I am good. Are you excited about What Idol?
I am very excited about What Idol. I was not able to do an entry this year, but I love cheering for all of the massively talented fans that we have throughout our fandom. It's always, always, always a good time.
Yeah, no, I am super excited to see what the fandom's going to come up with. Maury, what do you think? Excited about this?
I'm super excited for What Idol. I think every year people outdo themselves. It's gotten better year over year, and I think it's going to be the same this year.
Yeah, are
Get
you
ready
excited
for
about...
pain when it comes to
Yeah,
voting.
exactly. That's what I was going to ask. Are you ready to vote? Are you ready to vote? Is that,
No.
No. Don't make us vote. But hey, luckily, I don't think I'll have to vote this time. We'll find out. But
You found a loophole to get out of the voting.
Yeah.
I did. But yeah, we finally had something that the Tweet of Chaos gave us, not on a What Wednesday, but on a Tuesday, a Tam Tuesday. So let me show you this. I'm sure a lot of you guys, again, it's not season 2 content. We don't talk about season 2. It's not even season 3 content. It's deleted scene from season 1 that some few got to see at WalkCon last year, and we finally have here to show everybody. Let me put.
Too early for breakfast?
Never too early for your mum's bread. He left before I woke. She loved you, my wife. Do you remember her at all?
I remember her eyes. So blue, just like Rand's. Her hair was red like his.
When your mum and dad were rebuilding the inn after the fire, they sent you up mountain to stay the summer with us. And she'd spend all day with you, playing with you, holding you, as if you were her very own daughter.
You must miss her so much.
I do. Of course I do. But there's something about death that's clean, final. And a clean cut, even if it's 3 times as deep, will always heal better than something ragged. Something messy and raw. You have his heart in your hand, go. Be gentle with it. Is all I have.
So, wow, right? I just ended our previous poll, talking about who is your favorite Forsaken, and that, wow, I'm not surprised by this because, I mean, tongue in cheek, right? Not Lanfear. But I'm surprised Grendel didn't get a lot of votes here. 19%, the lowest, and Morden and Ishamael make up the other kind of 40%. But I'm going to put another poll in and then get your thoughts. Should they have kept this scene in season 1? What do you think, Jess?
I do, only because I think that showing a little bit more connectivity with the Emmons Field crew, with Tam, with Egwene, I think that would have been a positive input. We do have the spoiler bar up, right? So the only concern that I had was, the hair coloring, some descriptor of Carrie. Maybe that was why. I don't know why it got left behind, but I would have liked to see it. I can't get enough as Michael McCadden as Tam, though. That's just a given.
Yeah, I think he really shines in this scene, and we get a little bit of background, right? Rajesh, a little bit of, there's I think the Carrie throughout was pretty good.
Yeah, I really like the scene. So I think it should have been it. Probably, I think it's tough just because of the very limited screen time we had. We've done the whole 5 minute, what we would do with 5 more minutes, and there's probably other things that we would prioritize versus this scene, even if we had 5 more minutes. But I really like this scene because it's just such a great showpiece for Michael and Tam in this scene. And like, Tam is so good in this episode, like between this scene and the scene where he's talking about the wheel turning, which I'll talk a lot about today.
Wait. Turning the wheel or breaking the wheel?
Turning and breaking, of course.
All right. I did see a super chat. Let me try to find it here. 1 second. Yeah. Thank you, Darush Sedai. Sorry I've been MIA lately. Work's nuts, and I miss you all. See you at JordanCon and WhatCon. Yes, JordanCon is coming up 1 month, everybody. 1 month. Yeah, that is going to be awesome, and I am looking forward to meeting everyone again and having fun. But yeah, thank you so much, Darush. So let's come on, let's talk about Ishamael, the Betrayer of Hope. I put up the spoiler. The show will contain spoilers, and we're talking about probably the antagonist, the main antagonist of the whole series. So we will touch on the ending of so please, if you have not read all of the books, don't stick around.
This is full spoilers.
This is full spoilers. Yeah. Well, again, we won't go out of our way to spoil other things, but we will talk about pretty much everything up until like the end of the book. So if you were to choose one, in terms of Elan Morin Tedronai, Ishamael, and Morden, who would be like your this person, he actually won. He talks about I win again. who out of the three do you think actually was successful? Morin?
Oh, which of the three personas
Yeah,
actually
sorry,
won?
I'm gonna call you Morin because but
Yeah.
it'll be like so confusing throughout the show. So, but what do you think?
I think Ishamael might have been the actual winner persona. Like if you mean by the issue that we see sort of in the prologue, that's kind of rejoicing after the breaking of the world and is taunting Luce there, and as he's like turning into Dragonmouth, and I would say probably that issue was doing pretty well. He was winning at that moment.
Right. So he thought.
Yeah.
What about you, Jess?
I don't know. So I hadn't really taken a lot of time to think about the three personas, one over the other. I almost think that I like Elan more over the other two, just because much like I make comments about how soft book one Rand is, I feel like Age of Legends, Elan, took a stand and was 100% committed to what he thought was correct, and 100% committed to that, with zero regret. And then a lot of time spent as Ishamael was, how do I get out of this loop?
Right.
So I think I'm just a little bit of a different perspective on that.
Right. No, I agree. That the fact that we don't get too much of Elan Morin, and I think that's a shame. What we do get, across the big, the big white, the Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, the world of Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, the companion, and pretty much the prologue. It's pretty compelling for that argument. And I see this comment here. Thigh high boots, Elan. So let me show you a couple of quotes I have here. So let's see if Jess, you can read
Yes.
this for me. Sorry. Let me fix that. Let's see. Okay. All right, give me 1 second as I fix that. But what I was gonna read was that part, where he, in the prologue of the Other World, Dragonmount, he comes to Luce Theron and basically, wants to talk to him, and kind of revel in almost his victory at that point. So, well, what kind of stands out to you, about that?
The thing that stood out to me, even the first time I read it 20 years ago and straight through until this most recent read, was the need to be right, and the compulsive need to heal Luce Theron so that he could be aware and cognizant in the moment, just needing that absolute recognition of having won. That was incredibly impactful for, essentially an opening scene to a book that, I had no idea where it was going to take me.
Yeah, he wasn't going to get any joy from having that victory over Luce Theron with him not in a cognizant state of mind.
Right. Yeah. And, he, I think, was basically like, he wanted him to know that, like, you failed despite what you did, and, and wanted him to know that he killed Ileana and everyone. So I think that it tells you a little bit about his psyche at that point too. What he actually wanted to kind of do, right?
Yeah, I think he's got a little sadistic streak that we see every now and then, and there is definitely a little bit of that in the prologue when he's kind of like smiles at seeing what Luce Theron has done to Ileana and his kids and all.
Right. Yep. No, I agree. Let me just fix one thing here, and I will show you what I was trying to bring up. Give me 1 second. Here, that, and
I agree with you, Jessica, about how confident Elan is, because there's definitely something about going into the Hall of the Servants and just declaring to everyone that, I'm joining the dark side, basically, and you're all
Yep.
going to lose.
Exactly.
This is the right way. That takes some. That is an amazing scene.
Some real
to see one day.
conviction.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
to
right.
have that level of conviction that you 100% feel validated to step out and say, this is what's happened. This is where I'm coming down on this. Let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
And not to say that he wasn't a bold and decisive character through his next two iterations as well. But he had kind of the hubris of youth almost is what I think of in that behavior, like 100% conviction. This is what's happening. And there is no way you can tell me otherwise.
Yep. All right, let me try this.
Mm-hmm.
So, thigh-high boots. What does that even look like? Uh, Elan Morin with the fashion sense, with the fashionista of the second age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see the high boots a couple times in the series, but definitely she's the first one to sport it in the prologue, and I regret not getting thigh-high boots on my chibi. I'll have to redo it one day.
Yes.
It's funny that you said second age, though. I kind of just assumed it was a throwback to Age of Legends, and I realized that was an assumption I made, but I just figured that he had a very specific statement style about him and that he would have just carried it forward with him.
Yeah, I mean, he, again, this is, and I'll touch upon this. He's actually trapped at this point. He doesn't know he's trapped, so he's still, basically acting like like he normally does, and just shows up to basically taunt his arch enemy. So maybe you can read this for me, Jess, because I think this is probably one of the when I read this I was like, wow, okay, this book is amazing. This is great. So let's see if you.
It's not up on my screen yet. There we go. Elan Morin grimaced. Look at you, he said scornfully. Once you stood first among the servants. Once you wore the ring of Tamerlane and sat in the high seat. Once you summoned the 9 rods of dominion. Now look at you, a pitiful shattered wretch. But it is not enough. You humbled me in the hall of servants. You defeated me at the gates of Paradisen. But I am the greater now. I will not let you die without knowing that. When you die, your last thought will be the full knowledge of your defeat, of how complete and utter it is, if I let you die at all.
I mean, that is intimate. I think that like is someone
Very.
really well, and it's if I let you die at all, like this, it's he talks about how he was humbled, and then he talks about, well, I'm not gonna let you die, and I'm going to basically, from the start, this is going to be something that's going to be a theme throughout the series, and I think we see that with all iterations of Ishamael Morin.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a lot of that throughout the series. A lot of the antagonizing, almost seeking validation for his beliefs from his friend and rival, and trying to prove that his thoughts and ideals are superior.
Yeah, no. Again, I'm going to read another one here from the prologue because I just feel like it's the best view into Elan, and So even
Mhm.
back then, they mentioned the glow, so the flames. So this is the beginning of the Ishamael that we get to know later on in the first book, and I think that's word to word what Billy Zane says, except I think he
Mhm.
says victorious instead of triumphant. I wanted to
Okay.
actually go back and find that and actually play that and show that. Um, um, but I think this is it again shows you his his kind of madness almost. Let's see. They're asking me, please read the quotes when they are on screen. Um, Maybe elaborate that because on my end, they're actually on screen when I was reading
I
them.
think they cannot hear me or Jessica when the slides are on the screen.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I can fix that. Let me actually try to fix that right now. Let me see if you guys see this, and let's see.
Oh,
So
weird. They could hear me, but not you guys.
you could hear Jessica, but not me or, huh? That is odd.
Very strange.
Um, hmm. I'm not sure. Okay, let me just try it for a second here and see if that works. Let's see if. Okay, now you should be able to hear me. And yes, sorry about that. I'll fix that. So what I'm showing now is the physical appearance, and maybe let's try
Yep.
Rajesh. Why don't you read this out so we had a good sense of the difference between the three iterations.
I don't see anything on my screen.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I can read this too. Okay, people are saying they can read it. So, so Elan Morin Tedronai. So he's not as tall as Lucerne. He looked like a handsome man of middle years, except for his dark eyes and cruel lips. He had a mellifluous voice. There's another
Mhm.
part that's not in the companion, but I think it's in the Eye of the World that he has black eyes and black hair. Now, Ishamael is pretty much the same person, but over time his image changed. His mouth and eyes became caverns of flame. And then
Yep.
Moradin, he was 6'5" and to 6'6". I mean, people are giants in Randland. Tall with broad shoulders and brilliant blue eyes. His body was somewhere in its mid-20s and was stopped short of beauty by a chin that was too strong. So, from a physical appearance, I think the difference is the eyes. I think there's a older man who's Elan, who then becomes into the man with the flames in the eyes for flames, and from that perspective, when you guys first saw Moradin, what did you guys think? Like, when he came on, I think it's Crown of Swords when we first meet him.
Well, I mean, when we first see Mordant, I didn't initially know that it was Ishamael, so it was an interesting new character in the form of the Strangebear. And I think I wonder, I don't remember now if I knew quickly that it was a resurrected Forsaken or like if it was a new character, but
Right.
I think on rereads it's obviously more obvious that we're looking at Ishi return, right?
Yeah, and I think I was looking at this. I didn't put it on a slide, but I think it's like a Grendel POV from I think the Grating Storm, when he's like like looks at him and sees his eyes and says something like she recognizes that, and it's the person who like hates Ren or something like that, where he knows the motivations of Moradin, and it's that person. And I think that's where at least the first time I think one of the Forsaken says they know who the new Nablus is, or who who Moridin is. I think Rand actually doesn't find out until probably A Memory
He
of Light.
finds out pretty late, I think.
I think Memory of Light prologue, or not prologue, but like the start of A Memory of Light, when he visits in.
Rand gets pulled into a dream shard
yeah.
in one of the like 3 books, and that's when he kind of learns.
Yeah.
He learns that
right,
Moridin
because
is
Ishamael had done that so many times that it had the same signature,
right,
so to speak.
Yeah. So in terms of their names and Rajesh, were you able to see any of the screens, or not at all?
No, I just see a dark screen for the video. Sorry.
Okay, all right, so that's fine. Jess and I will do we'll share the duties of reading these out. So Jess, maybe you can read this for me. And I think this is just, again, just goes to show RJ's just dedication at words and etymology and things like that. So why don't you read this for us? Oh, is it not showing up for you too?
Not quite. I have to wait. There we go. Okay. So I'll start with Ishamael, a Forsaken who was named before going to the Shadow was Elan Morin Tedronai, who is also known as Beelzemon, Heart of the Dark and Soul of the Shadow. Betrayer of Hope is the meaning of Ishamael, and Moridin is the old tongue word for death.
Right. So I think like throughout this, it's becoming more clear like what is the purpose of this person, because their name, their chosen name, their name when they're resurrected is all to do with death and despair and and betrayal. And I think that becomes again more and more obvious that that's the theme for him.
It serves like a dual purpose, right? Because it's like he's death, he's the bringer of death, but it's also like this mockery that it's the one thing Moridin wants and he can never have, so it's calling him the one thing he can never be. So it's I like the dual purpose of his name.
An expression of his fixation. It also, some of it, for me at least, kind of is an extension of his delusions of grandeur, stylizing himself as the champion of the dark versus Rand's champion of the light. He chased those monikers pretty steadfastly, and it fed right into his vision of himself.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree that he was. He is a layered character, but that part becomes more and more clear that, and I'll show you a couple of things where even Rand feels the effect of that with the eventual link that they end up getting. But in terms of motivations, what do you guys think were his motivations, throughout this? Jess, you want to go first?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll go first. I feel like Age of Legends, Elan's motivation was to come out on the right side of history. This was in his mind absolutely an irrefutable conclusion, and he was going to come out on the right side of it, regardless of any cost of social perception, anything like that. So that was his motivation as Elan, I felt. And then he switches into Ishamael. He's got this, non-military yet head of the dark forces essentially role, and spends a lot of time completely unaware that the pattern has a grip on him and he's not going to keep being able to be a free agent out in the world, and that he's going to be sucked in and rolled back out every 1,000 years or so. So I think his motivation at that point is to continue wreaking havoc until he realizes that this is just going to keep happening. and how do I get out of this cycle? And that's when his motivation shifts, is really while he's Ishamael. And that's the breaking of the wheel motivation comes in full force. And then we get to Moradin, and he is now rabid and insane and has moved from, any sadistic, self-serving motivations that he have essentially been burned away. And he's now just fully nihilistic and whatever it takes to make it stop. And that's how I see the progression of Maury's motivations.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very, very kind of well put in terms of what you see. Anything you want to add there, Rajesh?
No, I think Jessica nailed it, right? I think Elan always had this I guess my take is that everyone kind of knew about the wheel and the circular nature of time in the Age of Legends, and like maybe they knew about the Dark One and he was imprisoned, and it was like not a threat because he's in prison, so it's okay. We have the dual forces turning the wheel. But then after the incident with the boar and the Dark One letting loose, I feel like, and we see real evil coming to the world, I think that's when Ishi has his grand aha moment that, oh my God, humanity has to fight these dark forces ad infinity. And he's just like, well, I need, eventually, the Dark One's going to win. Mm-hmm. So I want to join the winning side, basically. And then I think in a moment of grandeur, she's like, not only am I going to join the winning side, but I'm also the champion of the dark. So he kind of places himself into this grand role in the tapestry of history as the counterpart to the champion of the light. He's sort of the champion of the dark, and kind of seals his fate. And I don't know if it's true, if there's an unreliable narrator, because it's maybe Ishi being delusional, or if he really is kind of like the champion of the dark at infinity. But I think that's his point of view when he's like spouting off about how we've fought thousands and thousands of times, over the years.
Yeah, no, I like that you mentioned the fact that is he actually the champion of the dark? We do know that their souls are linked in this age, and he says that they've done it so many times, but it's not really, we're not really sure if that actually happens. I actually didn't put this on. There is a Ethereal interview thing where someone asked RJ, well, if that Ishamael says that Rand in some of the ages turned to the shadow and was like the champion of the dark, in those ages was Ishamael the champion of the light, and RJ's answer was pretty much like, come on, really? Like no. that's not true. So I think there might be some truth to the fact that this has happened before and has happened many times, but I don't think we have any reliable truth to that. I liked the thing you kind of mentioned about Elan Morin. So let me read this for you guys. So Elan Morin, this is from the Companion, was one of the foremost philosophers of his time, possibly the foremost. His books, and I love the names of these books, right? Among them, Analysis of Perceived Meaning, Reality and the Absence of Meaning, and the Disassembly of Reason. While too erudite for wide popularity, were extremely influential in many areas beyond philosophy, most especially the arts. Among the first turned to the shadow, he called for the complete destruction of the old order. In fact, the complete destruction of everything. His public announcement of his pledge, coming from a world-respected figure at a time when famine, plagues, and massive riots were racking a world that had never known them, in the middle of a conference called to discuss dealing with these problems, sparked even greater riots. It was Elan Morin who simultaneously announced to the world for the first time what it was that they faced. Although he had he never held a field command. He was the Dark One's top captain general and the most powerful of the Forsaken in use of the One Power. So he wasn't a general. He was a philosopher. He was smart. This is, I was thinking of the analogy to kind of share, and the one that came to me is like if Rafe shows up to Jordan Con and it's like, let's cancel the show. This is kind of like this is what he did. Basically, like the a really world respected figure showing up and then really turning the tide for the Shadow. Because I think what's mentioned, what we know about the War of the Shadow, they the first few years, the Shadow was really powerful and won a lot of the battles.
Yeah, he has no military training, but he's becomes field general. He actually has a ton of victories, does a great job, but I think it shows because he's obviously humbled eventually.
Right. I did see, I think Andrew put in a comment that, and he said that Moradin isn't insane. So let me show you this. And this is from the companion. Despite his resurrection in a new young body, he was still more than a little mad and still suffered from delusions of godhood. Despite being half mad and megalomaniacal, he was highly intelligent and damn clever. After being named Nameless, Moradin had both Mogadine and Sindanian's power held by the Korsufra. So he was still, for the most part, I think on that same trajectory as Ishamael was. I think we just saw him in that spectrum as really far gone with the true power wielding, and in this case, not as much. So I think, that for the most part, I think they are the same person, but in a different part or spectrum of where they are. What do you think, Jess?
I think that, again, it has something to do with also like the shift, the burning away of ego and the shifting of priorities.
Yeah.
So, as Moradin was no more sane, in my opinion, at least based on my read, Moradin was no more sane than any previous iteration. He had just, was kind of bent and broken in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, I truly wonder. I mean, Moradin has the signs of the grandeur, the signs of the sadism and insanity, and I really just wonder if there's an amplifier effect, just overdosing on true power for way too many years. That leads to what we see how he is when he's Balsamon.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the true powers in terms of, powers that we see from nobody else other than maybe Ishamael? The fact that he had true power access, and how that plays into, a big part of the ending. Thoughts about that, Rajesh?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to see kind of how he doesn't just have access to a true power, but he's really drug addicted. He's just cannot stop using the drug that is the true power. Uses it exclusively. You can see all the other sort of chosen who are still around. They're like, what is he doing? That's insane. Don't do that. And he just doesn't care. He just keeps using it and exclusively. And even in the short time between kind of when he comes back around a crown of swords, when you see a couple of saw in his eyes to the end of A Memory of Light, where his eyes are full saw, you can just see how much true power he's been using in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, and again, you kind of see that back in the prologue too, where it's starting to show, which I thought was a little odd, because you would have thought he had access to true power for most of the War of the Shadow, but maybe that was maybe one of the big difference, is that he didn't use it as much at that point, and he used it more after he was trapped and he went through that trauma. So I think that's one difference, that maybe the person you see Dragon Mount in the prologue versus what you see afterwards.
I would also point out, Honest, that give somebody something where there are negative consequences, but to somebody who just wants it all to end, the negative consequences no longer hold any meaning for them.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that level of self-destruction knows no bounds. You've just provided them with another tool in which they can spiral down. He doesn't care. He
Right.
does not care what the negative ramifications are of use of the true power.
Yeah, exactly. He's looking for oblivion. I don't think he cares. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't care. So we find him seeing Lews Therin make Dragon Mount, and I forget the exact wording, but he's like, "Well, I'll see you again," or something like that, and he vanishes away, and then we see him afterwards as the man with the fire in his eyes, the flame eyes in the boy's dream, right? But what happens in those 3,000 years, right? And the companion tells us a lot about this. So let me show you kind of the 3 times he's kind of cycled back in, and I think there's a lot of this told to us throughout the book series, but the companion really kind of digs into this. So let me pull this up for you guys. So this is the first time. So roughly 1,000 years later, though, the process reverts itself. They're talking about being trapped. He began to find himself back in the world of men, first at intervals in a wispy form, then more solidly, until finally he seemed to be again whole and in the ordinary world. The result of his efforts that time was the Trolloc Wars, but he was not able to do more than get them started, really. He founded the Black Aja in this period. There had been sisters who were Dark Friends before, but he was responsible for organizing them. That had a more long-lasting effect in many ways than did the Trolloc Wars. Within a matter of 20 years or so, the process reverts itself again, and he faded back into the seals. So he did a couple of things, and they referred to it right there that the Black Aja was probably notable achievements. If we talk about those, the Black Aja creation, Jess, you have thoughts about those 2 things?
I did. So before the show, you had asked if we had a favorite, and the Black Aja. It's an unpopular opinion, but that's probably my favorite of his notable achievements. So it was my first time doing deep dive prep, so there's so many cool things. I didn't realize how many books he had published. I knew he was a philosopher. I knew he was incredibly intelligent, but creating the process with the oath rod for the Black Aja oath, and I knew that he felt some responsibility for the Black Aja based on context clues in the book, but I clearly hadn't picked up on all of it. So that is probably my favorite Ishi achievement is the Black Aja.
All right, let me show the second time he came out and cycled out, and Rajesh, then I can ask you what your favorite one was. But before that, let me show you. This is a live call-in talk show, and the numbers on the screen now, it's 313-TALK-WAT. That's 313-825-5968. Call in, let us know why Ishamael is your favorite, because clearly he's your favorite. And what is your favorite kind of moment or favorite thing that Ishamael has done, or a scene that you really enjoy, and whether he was successful as a antagonist that kept the story moving, because he kept coming back and was a to me, a lot of people talk about Grendel and what Grendel did. The story doesn't exist without Ishamael. All right, so let me show you the second time he was cycled out. So the second time the cycle cast him out, in the same slow way, he found a world being unified, the known part of it anyway, by Arthur Hawkwing. He was able to turn Hawkwing's distrust of Aes Sedai into something more, resulting in the 20-year siege of Tar Valon, and the price on Aes Sedai heads. When the process of being drawn back into the seals began again, and he realized that he was doomed to this cycle, he tried to destroy Hawkwing's empire and humanity with the new Trolloc invasion, but Hawkwing's army beat it back handily. That drove him mad. So this time around, he actually kind of failed in what he wanted to do. Although this didn't mention it, he does get to influence the Shanchan, I guess, because he does that. So what do you think about this, Rajesh?
I think this is I think the interesting thing about Ishii is like he's in these periods is like you get these like 1,000 years of sort of peace, and then he's like half sealed, and he comes out for these 40 years, and while researching this, I was just like, these are like the 40 years where he's just going to play wrecking ball, and he's just going to see what's going on in the world, where are things looking too nice, too settled, and then he's just going to go wreck it and just cause chaos and instability and just try and set humanity back. And in this case, like, he's just like, okay, like Arthur Hawkwing and this empire, I'm just going to go mess it up and sow distrust and tell him to send his armies across the sea and all this stuff. And it's wonderful to see.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, I think one of my desires, I don't think is to see like a cold open where maybe we see Ishii talking with Arthur Hawkwing and doing this scene where he's convincing him to like send his forces across the Arid Ocean and all that, because it's obviously very relevant to sort of the season 2 plot line.
Right. So I'm gonna poll people. Do you want to see an Ishamael flashback cold open? Yeah. No. The way I was, and yes, no, right? This should be a yes, no. Yeah. Okay. The way I was going to answer that was actually, I just want to see like a Ishamael like spin-off, like trilogy or something, just like this can make for just such a great backstory to everything that happens, and there's so much to tell. There's so much to actually use material, but then use the creative license to make more, more from it. So, that would be really cool to see, because we have the Shanchan coming back. They can be like, why are these like people, bad, I guess, but then you could show this is, because they had an influence from that. So, let me show you the last time he was spun out, because he has not died, right? So not spun out, cycled out. So this is he actually never died from the Age of Legends. So which is again it's called I've read it in a couple of different places, but I think when he's trapped it's a dreamless sleep. But there was another part where they said that he had dreams, so I'm not really sure, don't hold me to that. But when he's actually the other Forsaken have a dreamless sleep. His might be a little bit different, and he might be able to see some of the world when he was trapped. But the last time he was cycled out was book 1 to 3. So the third time the cycle cast him out, it was to discover that the dragon had been reborn. He knew this meant that the seal must be weakening. The pattern was preparing itself for the last battle. His chance of breaking the cycle was at hand, and so was his chance to stand high in the favor of the Dark One by finding and turning the Dragon Reborn. He was unsuccessful, being bested by Randall Thor twice and killed by him. The Dark One resurrected him and gave him a new body and a new name, and that was Moradin. So, he was finally killed, and we don't really know the time period when he was dead and then resurrected, but it really wasn't that long. He was brought back pretty quickly. There's some timeline stuff where they're trying to figure out, okay, who was brought back first? Was it Osengard?
Yeah, I get the feeling that he was like not there during Dumai's Wells and stuff. Maybe he came back after, but I haven't been able to find anything definitive.
Right. Yeah, no, I am not sure too. But I think he definitely finally like was killed, and I think that that was a turning in the story too, I think, because if he wasn't killed, I think the same thing would have happened again and again, and the type of person that came back and the machinations of Moradin, I think were needed to get the kind of the things, the kind of ending we got. I think I see a caller. Let me try to find that. Just give me 1 second here and see who. Yes, this should work. Okay. All right. Hey, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. Who's this?
Hi, my name's Sunday. I'm a second-time caller. I called for the first time last year when I finished my first read-through, and I'm on my second read-through now.
Hey,
welcome, and that's awesome. Did you finish reading before the show came out?
I was in the middle of it when the show came out, but I was far enough into the read that the show was not going to spoil anything.
All right, perfect.
But I think I finished it probably a month or two after the show was finished with season 1.
So what do you think about Ishamael and what we're talking about? Do you have any questions, comments, anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, a question that's kind of lingered for a long time and is now maybe more prevalent on my second read. I have never fully understood why he was like allowed to impersonate the Dark One in the first few books. Like, why wasn't the Dark One pissed at that? I just never fully, like, I feel like the Dark One would be like, hey, no, don't impersonate me. So I just never fully got that.
Yeah, no, that's what do you think, Jess? Why would the Dark One allow Ishi to do that?
I had personally ascribed it just my own personal opinion, not based on anything factual or any research done from the handbook or companion, so know that going into it. Personally, I had just attributed it to the Dark One's touch inside the pattern was still too weak, and honestly it still suited his purposes, created chaos. She was working on his behalf at the time, so it really, I don't even think that if the Dark One could have had fully emerged enough to chastise him, I don't know that he would, because he was still sowing seeds of chaos.
Yeah, Rajesh, what do you say to that? What are your thoughts?
My take on it is that it's kind of like, I don't think the Dark One is too worried about, oh, you're impersonating me or stuff. Maybe that's more like human pettiness or concerns about identity imitation. I think it's just like, are you effective and do you get the job done? And as long as Ishi/Balsamon was doing the Dark One's will in the world, he was fine with it, and I didn't care. Just you only really see the Dark One kind of punishing the Chosen when they fail, and as long as you don't fail, you're golden.
Yeah, and I would probably add the same there, where I think as long as, and the kind of like, Ishamael failed, right? He like failed 3 times and was killed, and was brought back again as Moradin by the Dark One and made nameless again. So the Dark One's like trust in this person is like pretty complete, and so I think he was given to. I mean, if you really think about it, he wants what the Dark One wants and what Ishi wants are kind of the same, but what really Ishi wants is just for everything to end, which you could argue is what the Dark One wants too. But it's hard to know if those two kind of what they actually want adds up. So even if I think the Dark One was like, as long as this person will continue to do what I want to do, he can do whatever he wants.
I'd like to add something that was noted in chat too. Sorry, honey.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I
I
was
think
just
I
gonna
just compared it a lot to the way that the girls, Nynaeve and Egwene, would be like impersonating Aes Sedai, and then so nervous about it because like, oh my gosh, you forbid you like impersonate an Aes Sedai. It just made me think like, okay, if they're so hard about that, why wouldn't it be also a problem for somebody, the Forsaken, to impersonate the Dark One? I don't know why I compared those two, but that's how I thought about it.
Yeah, no, it's I think a lot of, because we get some Dark One kind of input right at the end of the books, right? And like what he really wants. But if you really think about what and then the way I put it, where Morden came back, like despite just doing whatever he wanted and calling him Balsamon, the Dark One still brought him back. So he clearly had no problems with that. I think it's because he was just so much of a devout follower of him. He knew that he would always be on his side.
Well, he was brought back and he was punished because he was brought back. So it was a punishment. He failed, right, by dying. And so he was punished because he was brought back to the land of the living. He obviously would have been happy to be dead, but he had his role to play in the pattern and in the dark one, the cause. And so he had to be punished by coming back.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to point out, some of the more astute hardcore fan freaks in the chat are pointing out that some of it's a little bit of a misnomer situation too. Beelzemon is not the name of Shaitan. It's not the name of the Dark One. But there were people around thinking that was the name of the Dark One. And so, was he actually masquerading as the Dark One, or were people misnaming him?
So that's an interesting thing you pointed out. So I tried to look up like what is the origin of the word Balsamon, and I really couldn't find it. So there is some stuff in the companion that suggests that the Balsamon is actually a name of the Dark One, but then it got to a point where that concept of the Dark One got merged with this person Balsamon that people kept on seeing. So
it was like the Trolloc name, right? For
exactly,
the Trolloc
exactly.
part of the Dark.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's, regardless, you're right that there is a you could maybe say that the name was just the Balsamon people talked about was always Ishamael and never really the Dark One. But there is some things to suggest that it was actually a name for the Dark One. And it's, again, he is the champion of the shadow. So in all essence, he is, even though he's
self-proclaimed, the self-proclaimed champion of the shadow.
I mean, he's in the Avatar, which is Shatter Haran, but he is, and I didn't put this on there. Brandon has answered this question, that who would defer in a meeting, Shatter Haran or Moradin, and Shatter Haran would defer to Moradin because even though he's the hand and the Avatar, it's different in, there's I couldn't really understand why, but Moradin is like the chosen representative, on there.
I think it would be interesting if you all one day. Yeah, I was just thinking, now that you've said all of that, now I want to know, like, what is the ranking of the Forsaken? Like, who's top dog, all the way down to who's, like, most, like, throwawayable. Ton of words. But yeah, maybe you guys can do that one day.
Yeah, no, a Forsaken, I mean, there are folks that have done, I think, like tier lists and things like that, but actual Forsaken, yeah, I think they're definitely
chart.
Yeah, there's definitely a kind of high, mid, and low tier when it comes to the Forsaken. Ishamael is definitely up there. All right, awesome. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
And again,
thank you.
Call in again, and I'm glad you're rereading again. What you got out of a reread is just so much more, and you'll be surprised by a few things, and how did you miss certain things. So enjoy that.
Yeah, definitely am. Thank you very much. Have a
All
good
right.
night.
All right. Good night.
Night.
All right. Cool. So let's see here. I had a couple other things. One thing we alluded to earlier, but this is an interview that RJ did a while ago, and let me show this here. And let's see. Yeah. So this is a question. This is from Whatmania website back in 2004. An interview with RJ. The question was: did Ishamael come to Luthern Telemon's palace in the prologue of Eye of the World to kill him? And RJ said no, to taunt him with his defeat. Ishamael would much rather have had Luthern alive and suffering from the knowledge of defeat, not to mention the murder of his wife and other bloodkin, than simply dead. And we talked about the motivation of that visit. RJ has answered that that it was literally to come, but let's get into some of the notes stuff. There's not a lot of stuff in RJ's notes, so it's a little about an hour into the stream. The one I found most enjoyable from the notes was this one, and I'm gonna ask. I'm going to end this poll first. So let's see what this shows. And I think it's a resounding yes. Do you want to see an Ishamael flashback hold open? 94% of you say yes. So Luz Theron Telamon and Elan Morin Tedronai, what was their relationship like? What, like, other than being leaders of two sides of the sides of the War of the Shadow? What was their, like, what is your headcanon for how they knew each other, Elan's personal relationships, I guess? What do you think, Jess?
I think that they were peers, and that they were so closely matched that they were natural rivals, at least from Elan Morin's perspective. And I think that is the basis for everything, right? That's the basis for the ego, for being so distinguished in his field, and this, that, the other thing. I truly think that they were peers, they were contemporaries, and that they were so close that Elan, even before the breaking, had just too closely tied his own sense of personal value and worth to what his ranking was against Luz Theron.
Okay, yeah. I think that there's nothing explicitly mentioned. There's a lot of subtext in the books about this, and especially after Rand and Luz Theron, they kind of merge, and then they talk afterwards. What do you think, Rajesh, LTT, and Elan Morin?
Yeah, I feel like there's not a lot to go on in the books, but I think my headcanon is they're definitely peers and knew each other well, probably in the peers in the Hall of the Servants and all that stuff.
Yep.
And I wouldn't say they were friends, or at least they
frenemies,
knew each other intimately, maybe rivals. What'd you say?
Jay calls Jay put a comment out there. Frenemies. They're frenemies.
Frenemies, possibly, yes. Because I feel like they definitely knew each other very well. That comes from a sort of intimacy, I guess you could say, of knowing your friend or rival. Or
I think it matters if you're asking Ishi, or if you're asking Elan, or if you're asking Luz too, right? So I feel like the negativity comes from Elan's perspective versus Luz's perspective. I think that if you ask Luz if they were friends, his response would have been yes. Whereas Elan's wasn't. Or, we were colleagues or something. He would use some kind of vacuous term to not commit to friendship, is how my headcanon has gone.
Yeah, like by the end of the books, they're referring to each other, even they're in Morin and Rand's bodies, but they're referring to each other as Elan and Luz in their final fights.
I'm glad you brought that up. I have one thing from the books, and then I'll share the RJ notes. So this is from The Gathering Storm, Chapter 15, A Place to Begin. and this is one of my favorite kind of interactions. So Rand's, talking about destroying the Dark One and defeating the Dark One, and Morden's like, "Perhaps you will," he said, "but do you think that matters? Consider it. The wheel turns time and time again. Over and over the ages turn, and men fight the Great Lord. But someday he will win, and when he does, the wheel will stop. That is why his victory is assured. I think it will be this age, but if not, then in another. When you are victorious, it only leads to another battle. When he is victorious, all things will end. Can you not see that there is no hope for you?" "Is that what made you turn to his side?" Rand asked. "You were always so full of thoughts, Elan. Your logic destroyed you, didn't it?" "There is no path to victory," Morden said. "The only path is to follow the Great Lord and rule for a time before all things end. The others are fools. They look for grand rewards in the eternities, but there will be no eternities. Only the now, the last days." I think this was like, Brandon did a really good job of, showing us this dialogue of what Morden is all about. And I liked how Rand's like, "You're, like, I know you, dude. This is what happened. You got all up in your head and your logic kind of messed you up." So I think there was subtext like this that did show that they knew each other more than maybe just peers. And I don't know why I always had this thing in my head that they were best friends. And I think a lot of people have this, but I looked forever everywhere and I could never find it. And I was talking to, the Innkeeper about this too. And we were like, we can't find this, like, where's this from? And finally, RJ's notes, one spot, and this is my favorite part of RJ's notes. Ishamael, in brackets, Old Tongue, betrayer of the hope, in parentheses, question mark, better, name given to the dragon's best friend, who became one of the Forsaken, name taken by him, in parentheses, his old name being cast off and actually forgotten as a sign of defiance. Nice. So at some point, RJ thought this was the dragon's best friend. Now, was that, what, was in the books? I'd like to think so. Again, take all these notes with, a grain of salt, because, we do know RJ changes his mind multiple times, and these, most of these notes are undated. So this, I think, was from pretty early in the notes. But he's the dragon's best friend, and that's my headcanon forever and ever.
Yeah, I think that's where maybe I had that feeling too, is because of the whole betrayer of hope. I felt like, they were friends, and then, Elan betrayed him, and hence he got the name Betrayer of Hope. That only comes from being like best friends. Now it seems like maybe the Betrayer of Hope, or the actual betrayal, is when he went to the Hall of the Servants to declare for the Shadow. Yeah. But I also like the headcanon that he also personally betrayed, his friend.
Yeah.
It definitely speaks to the depth of emotion. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if that's how Luz felt about him. My curiosity is that the ego monger that was Elan, could he experience friendship to the same extent? He certainly experienced the same depth of emotion in terms of, wanting to sadistically pursue Luz Theron and make him pay and make him see his world crumble around him. But I would just argue, I don't know if that's truly friendship, or maybe it was at some point and it just kind of evolved into something more malignant.
Well, I mean, you could turn it around too. I mean, maybe Elan was betrayed by his best friend, and this was a learned, great philosopher who maybe was needed the support from his best friend and not go down the path that he did and join the Shadow. So you could maybe turn it around that, well, didn't Luz Theron see this coming? He was, a leader. He held the high seat. He was, had the Ring of Tamerlane, and he maybe should have, listened or tried to not make him turn, because apparently no one knew this was coming when he announced his betrayal.
Sure.
Yeah, at least I mean, again, I am an Elan sympathizer, so I think.
Luce Theron was a bad
I
friend
would
and
say
humiliated 13 people. So
I would
Yes.
say I'm more of a Moradin sympathizer than I am an Elon sympathizer. So I would say that by the end,
Okay.
I had a boatload of empathy for Moradin at the end, and was very happy with how that worked out for him. But I wouldn't say I had a lot of empathy for Elon. I wouldn't say that I'm an Elon sympathizer.
Yeah. Echo Sedai saying Luz was too busy. He was just too busy. Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting you said that, you have empathy for Moradin. So this is from A Memory of Light, chapter 4, Advantages of a Bond. This is Rand saying, Rand could feel his shock. You hate yourself. I can feel it in you. So, with the link that they had, like he could feel that, that Moradin hated himself. And I think, that is an interesting, and again, it's Rand's perspective, right? But that's another layer to it where Moradin not only wanted to destroy everything, he hated himself. Like he
Mhm.
had gone down this path. And again, I think there is some, to me, a part of me wants to believe that Lutheran failed his friend. That's what happened. No?
yeah, I think so. I mean, it feels a little Darth Vader-y of someone who's like maybe realizing some of his errors but
Yep.
is just too far gone and can't find his way to redemption.
Yeah.
And is just seeking oblivion to be kind of free from those mistakes almost.
Yeah. I mean,
And so we think that Luz Theron, is the golden boy, and received all the accolade and attention, and because of that wasn't able to take good care of his friends.
Yeah, I mean, that, and it's funny you mentioned Darth Vader. I wasn't going to make this reference, but when he goes on his thing about you defeated me at the gates of Paradisen, then he says, "But I am the greater now." I mean, I could hear like, "But I am the master now," like Vader, like saying that. It sounded so
Big
much like
Hayden Christensen vibes. Yes.
So this is like clear where he's like, "Yeah, you defeated me, but I'm back now, and I am the master." So, yeah, no, I think let's talk about how this ended for Moradin, right? So he wanted to destroy everything. He goes into the last battle. He starts fighting, and I don't think he knew about Kalendor, because that's how he gets, trapped, right? So, the things he did know, however, were the dark prophecies, and this is one thing that I, again, it's not clear, but it's so like I had to search for this, and I was happy I found this. But this is from Towers of Midnight, and this is Grendel and Moradin talking, and Moradin saying, "They have long been known to me," Moradin said softly, still studying the book, "but not to many others, not even the chosen." So he's talking about the dark prophecies, and there's one mention at the end of Towers of Midnight with the something wolf, and
That parent's gonna die
yeah.
or something.
I think he got it wrong, and I don't have it
Yeah.
in front of me now, but it might have been like Slayer instead of parent. Like he might have understood it wrong.
It's as accurate as Rand dying, like
Right.
the
Yeah.
whole Olivia
Exactly.
thing, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. So, that's one of the things that Moradin had access to, and he speaks to that. He has access to the dark prophecies, and he studied them, and we don't have too much of the dark prophecies at all in the books, but that part I thought was really cool. There's a book out there of the dark prophecies, and he had access to it.
Which is very cool, but it goes back to his academic hubris, right? Like, so he's got access to information that he's processed, and he is not taking any, he doesn't leave any room for the consideration that perhaps he has misinterpreted the information available to him.
Well, I mean, sometimes you study something and you come to the same conclusion again and again and again. So I mean, he has a point, right? There might be, if this is a circular time, it might end at some point, and the Dark One can win. So we talk about dark prophecies. Do you think any of these were like Ishamael himself? Could Ishamael foretell? Do we have anything like that? Do we have any of the Forsaken who maybe had the foretelling? Anything like that?
I haven't seen anything about any foretelling really from the Shadow, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we know that Ishi had dreamwalking abilities. That was kind of his talent, if that's what they had, like the same thing as if they had talents equivalents.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Let me see if I can actually share this one. This talks about, the thing you brought up right now. I'm glad you did, because is Morin a dreamer? And this is a question for a lot of the Forsaken, and hopefully this shows up well. Let's try this.
I thought that question was answered in Fairyland.
Yep. So this is Brandon.
Okay.
This is on Twitter. He
Nice.
says, this might be old news, but people keep asking me about it. Yes, there are dreamers among the Forsaken, male and female. Austin Moore said, well, one male and one female Forsaken are dreamers, ? And Brandon said, there are multiple dreamers, at least one male and at least one female. And, you look through this, and Brandon just didn't want to answer this question, like so many different ways. Therese tried. So there's one that follows up to this, and let me pull this up. So this is Driving Mr. Sanderson I think this was at JordanCon 2011. Again, Therese verbatim. Therese says, when you said some Forsaken are dreamers, you meant they have prophetic dreams, right? Or are they just dreamwalkers? Brandon, I did mean dreamers. People have been trying to pin me down on that one. Therese, yeah, everybody has been convinced that you were just confused. Brandon, that I was just confused. No, I meant dreamers. I did indeed mean dreamers. And Therese is like, I know you did, but just verifying. Brandon, yeah, and I'm 95% on that one. We'll put an asterisk on it. I actually sent Maria deeper into the notes, but I know at least one is, and I'm pretty sure one of each gender is. So I think, it's getting more clear that Morin is likely a dreamer, given the things we see happen in the books with dreams with him. He didn't actually kind of say it. I think I have it here, hopefully. Yes, good. I can show you the one that gets closest to it. And that is, so this is Azrael Hanan says, is Elan Morin a dreamer / dreamwalker? Brandon, and this is on Twitter, says, that's an excellent question, but I don't know if I'm allowed to answer. Remind me again when the deadline is passed, and I'll see. Footnote says, Brandon indicated later there is one male Forsaken who is a dreamer, which most likely means Morin. So he never actually has said it, but I agree with, I think Andrew just put in the chat, Lanfear and Morin are dreamers, maybe Moggy too, Mogadine. But yeah, I think so. If Ishi was a dreamer, he could have prophetic dreams, right? And so even some of these drop prophecies that he has in his book, he could have had other drop for prophecies that he was dealing with and going off of in his requests. So I think that's a cool kind of power that he had. Dreamers, and having prophetic dreams. Jess, thoughts on that?
I mean, I definitely think it's cool. I am being a terrible guest and trying to find, I had bookmarked a couple of spots in Fairyland, and I thought one specifically was an interview with Brandon that said that, or RJ, I'm not sure which one, had said that Ishi specifically was not a dreamer. So I apologize.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I got the bug and apparently was more interested in debunking what you said.
I like the idea that maybe he wrote these prophecies and he doesn't even know he's the one that these prophecies came from him or something. That'd be hilarious.
Right. Let me there's a couple of fun ones that Brandon answered. Again, it's Brandon answering this. Let's see. So someone asked Brandon back again on this is all on Twitter. They asked him, Austin Moore, who would you say is your favorite Forsaken? And that's coming from you as a fan more than as a writer. And Brandon was like, Ishamael Morin. So we know that that his favorite Forsaken is Ishamael. And then someone else asked him again. This was at a signing report for the Guiding Storm in 2009, verbatim from Robert. If the Forsaken were in a bubble all by themselves, who would win? And Brandon said, Ishamael, he's got the true power. So, Brandon is a fan. I didn't find the one where there's another fun one where someone asked, I think it was Jason Denzel from Dragonmount, who asked him who's like more nasty, Pat and Fane or Moradin? And he was like, Moradin, like, why is this even a question? And as much as the stuff we see Pat and Fane do, it doesn't compare to how quote unquote nasty Moradin is. But kind of going back to the ending. So what do you guys think happened at the end? What happened to Mori at the end? And before, maybe I can show you what the companion says happened. So we have the official version here, right? Because the companion says what happened. At Sheol-Gul, Morin faced Rand in the last battle. Rand prevailed and carried Morin out of the Pit of Doom. The two swapped bodies. Moradin in Rand's body died. That's what happened. What does that mean? Did his body died? Moradin in Rand's body died. Does that mean he got what he wanted? Like his soul? Is he done for? With the body swap and everything? Rajesh, what do you think?
I think it's like we know, like sort of like he got like he obviously got played at the end of that of the story because he got tricked with Kalendor. Like he didn't even know it was like a true power ter'angreal until he picked it up and used it. So to go back to whether he even knew about what Kalendor could do, and then he got sort of tricked into being trapped in the link. But I think when it comes to the body swap, it's like I think we know that like the two souls reached for what they wanted. Like Rand wanted to live and she wanted to die, so they went to the appropriate bodies. But I think it's also like interesting to see, like, I wonder if in that moment, because like we know like the Dark One was going to be sealed up, like the prison was going to be put back, that kind of Moradin is like, I can now go die and have peace for a couple thousand years because he's not going to be able to like resurrect me now. So maybe he didn't get the actual true victory of Oblivion, but he got a victory of at least peace for a couple of ages.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw a little comment in before I get your thoughts, Jess. We talk about Balefire as being the final. What is the Dark One call it? The final end or something like that. But we know that Balefire does not. It makes it so that the Dark One can't bring back that soul. It does not make it so that the soul cannot be reincarnated in the next age or however that would happen through the creator/wheel process.
Just by the wheel, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So technically, once a soul exists, it can't really be destroyed, at least from the metaphysics that we understand, I think. So,
but maybe he gets spun out and just doesn't know about any of this because it's not an age where he has to battle.
Yeah. Jess, you're smiling.
I am smiling. So I admittedly have only been through the last battle once, right? So I have what I consider to be a pretty juvenile glass half full perspective, but I absolutely think that that it was that Moradin got peace, and so did Rand. And the pattern gave it to them each their own way. And that if Moradin's soul comes back, it comes back as a brand new baby soul. You know, I think of souls as energy that can't be created or destroyed. It can only be repropositioned, kind of thing. And so even if Moradin does come back, that soul comes back into the world, it'll come in as like a baby soul and start a new path. Is my honest take on it, that the pattern's boon to each of them was peace on their terms.
Yeah, no, I like the comment that I put up there, Moonshada, who said he will come back as a tinker. I mean, yeah, that I think Moradin would not will be fine. That soul will be happy to be a tinker. So yeah, no, I like that. So people asked Brandon, because they couldn't ask RJ what happened at the end. So the question, this is from a Memory of Light signing report, which paraphrased back in 2013, and of course Ishamael was obliterated just like he wanted. Finally, we think, was his soul destroyed? And Brandon said it does not actually say. So I think he didn't want to commit. I think he could have said what he thought happened, but he's basically said we don't know. And I think a lot of the questions about the ending there in the body swap, Brandon has kind of not answered, because he left it in as pretty much how RJ kind of had stuff there. So I'd like to believe that like given the things that I just mentioned, that he probably is maybe, I'm not sure if he's still linked to Rand, because we don't know if that happens again and again, right? We think this happens again and again, but we don't really know for sure. We do know, based off the dragon soul being a hero of the horn and all these other things, that some of this has happened before, right? Like Brigitte and all these people have said this. So, but from a Forsaken / that standpoint, he doesn't have to be that person again. It can be someone else, and maybe it was just a Dark One messing with his mind, making him believe that he's done this forever, and some other poor soul.
I think there's like an unreliable narrator, so it's hard to say if this is truly.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. I think that makes me happy. Let's. What are people saying? So I put out a poll. Did he get what he wanted? Is his soul arbitrary? Maybe it's a bad poll, because those are not the same things. So people are saying he didn't get what he wanted. Okay, that is. I would qualify that as a dusty poll. I think so. that is as dusty as I would get. Let's put it that way. So
well, then good job, Innkeeper.
Right. So there's a couple other things that just things that I saw, and there's not much about Elan Morin in the notes. The only other thing that I wanted to maybe mention from the notes is this one right here. Just something that I thought was interesting. This is, from his notes, box 58, fold 3. Because Rand, Mat, and Perrin are Ta'veren, they stand out in various ways. They're like spikes standing up in the pattern, spinning everything around them. In the same way, their dreams can be more easily found, sometimes at least as witness what Ishamael was able to do, and also that Lanfear was able to locate Rand, though part of this was her persona, recognition of the pattern, if you will, of Lews Therin's dreams. So again, nothing in the notes that says the both of those are dreamers, but those are some at least dreamwalker abilities right there that he's mentioning. There's another thing that I couldn't find and put up here, was that because of this, like there was a talent or so that Ishamael had in finding Ta'veren in the pattern. And again, I forget exactly the wording around it, so don't hold me to it. But I saw it when I was first started researching it. I didn't put it down, and I tried looking for it again, and I couldn't find it. But this is the closest I got to in terms of he can find Ta'veren in their dreams. And I think that might be a dreamer, dreamwalker ability. I don't think we see it from Egwene.
I wonder if that's something that came about later, like not in
Right.
Eye of the World, because we know kind of the first 3 books that
The
he's
metaphysics is, yeah.
he's using Pat and Fein to find the boys, right? I mean, if he could just see the Ta'veren, I don't know.
Yeah.
But Egwene, when she was dreamwalking, did say that there were ways to identify individuals beyond what happened with Gowan. But
Maybe they
I
just
know
turned
that
it. Maybe they just turned it into need. His need was to find Ta'veren. So in dreamwalking terms, his need manifested as that. Maybe that's what it eventually turned into. But RJ in its notes is not talking about need, and the need thing came later. The need thing is, I think, for ter'angreal, it makes it a little bit more broader and a broader concept than specific talents or powers someone might have in the dream world. Yeah. And there was one other thing in the notes which was interesting, is true power traveling. So we first see it in the first page or second page, right? When Elan just comes into existence, and then we at the end of that chapter just vanishes. So this I thought was really interesting. How did he do that, and who else can do something like this? Let me show you. This is from, again, RJ's notes, box 62, folder 2. Remember that when using the true power for traveling, you simply seem either to fade into existence and out of it, or you can simply appear and vanish. The vanish appear suddenly scenario is not a normal one. When fading from one place to another, you can see the other place and what is there before you yourself are there enough to be harmed to any great extent. If you simply vanish in one place, you simply appeared in another without any opportunity to see what you're getting into. This is how Lanfear vanished in front of Min and Falme. So there's this like fading, which is maybe like skimming, I guess, or something like that. And there's the vanish kind of thing. I don't know why he needed to make those two things there, but I think they explained how we saw some of it.
Is that because of the true power way of traveling, of like ripping? Isn't that like you rip a hole in the pattern or do something, or step out of the pattern?
But this is talking about true power traveling having two different ways of doing it. One is where you just vanish and appear, and the other one is where you fade and appear, and you can like you can see something. There are a few other people who use it. Yes, Grendel uses it, I think. So they show Lanfear. Lanfear uses it. Very few people can use the true power, because you need to go to Shell Ghoul and get specific like permission from the Dark One to do it. Grendel can do it weekly, I think. That's mentioned somewhere. I think Lanfear could do it. I don't know if Sindane can afterwards. Someone's put in chat, Fins, that Demon Dread used it too. Yeah, I don't recall that, but I'm not surprised. And then there comes the part where like how did Rand use true power when he in the Gathering Storm with Samaraj? Like how could he have used the true power if you need permission from the Dark One and go to Shell Ghoul?
Was that because of his link to Morgan?
Yeah, that's
I was just gonna say that. I was like, wasn't that due to their bond?
Yeah. So it's hard to, we don't know the metaphysics well enough how that link was, what that could do, because it was a Balefire link made by the true power, but would that give you access to the other person's soul and how their interest?
It was true power and a 1-power Balefire stream cross, right?
Yeah. So like, I don't know. However that worked, now Rand could use true power. And he did. I think that was it as far as from the. There's other stuff in. It was about the Black Aja and how Ishamael when he found out about the pogrom and the male channelers being killed, he like basically wiped out the Black Raja and made Elviaran the head. I think we know that from the companion. So I think like from a I think we're about 15 minutes to the hour, getting to the end. What do you guys think? Elan Morin Tedronai, how he's portrayed in the TV show. Which version did we get in season 1? Ishamael. Maury?
I think I feel like we got pretty close to a Morden version of Ishi on the show. I think I was reading a bunch of scenes, Morden scenes for this show, and I think the one that we talked about in the show today about where Rand and Morden meet and they're talking about how you were always logical and stuff. Like when I read that scene, I could hear like Ferris delivering the lines in that scene.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think Ferris is fantastic, and I can't wait to see if we get some of that cycling back and through whether it be in flashback form or whatever. I feel like we have best behavior Ishi. I don't think that we're at Moradin yet. And the lack of rabid behavior is a little disconcerting and off-brand. But I think that we're just getting him on his very best behavior, and that he will go feral at some point. And I can't wait for it.
So will we get more unhinged Ferris in season 2?
I would like to. And then I'd like to see him slip into a rebirth as a very, very cool, soft, collected Moradin, which will be terrifying and delightful.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that the show tried to show it as if what's his name, whatever version we got, right, Ishamael, is still sealed, and he at the end has been the seal has been broken and he's out. So I think that's a basic difference. So it's hard to really know. I think of Moradin as like not the same person as the last one because he actually died and came back. So in this case, it's in I actually thought of him as Elan who hasn't gone mad yet, but will go mad in front of us. And that's kind of how I thought of him. And the only reason is because there isn't that much of a difference other than the fact that the how much true power they've used, I think. And Moradin, when he comes back, is somehow more trusted and more ready for the battle that's to come than the unhinged, trapped forever Ishamael that we see in the books and maybe in the show.
I think that's because he's burned away all of his personal motivations, right? Like all that's left for him is breaking the wheel. He has left ego behind. He has left all of his self-serving motivations behind. The last thing that he wants is breaking the wheel. And I think that that's what really defines Moradin.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hope they keep transmigration. I hope they are able to somehow work that in, because just having, I mean, Ferris has been amazing, but I feel like there should be an end to that, and then a new antagonist kind of thing that happen, and obviously they're gonna use Lanfear and all of that, but I think we need that nameless version of Moradin. The one who's like rallying everyone. We might just have it with this, but I feel like there's too much story to tell for someone who's like as accomplished of a leader as Moradin to show up like right now. Like we need some banana peel slipping Forsaken stuff before we get actual competent Moradin to work.
Yeah, I think like what you see in the first 3 books with Balsamon is like, I think he's just rushing at Rand, right? He's like attacking Rand every chance he gets. He wants to just, he's completely mad and he's doing stuff and just keeps like trying to turn him to the dark side with his like crazy dreams and stuff. And then
Yeah.
but when he comes back as Morden, you can see him as like he's the end boss. He's
Right.
Nameless, he's the planner, and he's the end boss, so he's not taking part in any of the small day-to-day battles, and you don't really see him until the very end of the series. So
Yeah. He's basically, end boss fight. That's it. That's his purpose. The rest of it is he's just there. Well, Ishamael was just like, fought him 3 times and lost 3 times. Awesome. Any parting thoughts on anything we didn't touch upon that you guys had before we end for tonight?
I think it's I think we touched on it a little, but I think it's really interesting to see how at least the Morden version is very much a mirror to Rand in a lot of ways. I think it reminded me a little of like the sometimes complaint about the MCU about how the heroes always fight a version of themselves, like an Iron Man fighting an enemy that's in armor, or like Black Widow fights someone who's like another KGB type of
Right.
you're fighting a mirror of yourself that's kind of reflecting all the dark sides of your personality, or like a what if things went kind of bad. And I think Morden is a lot like that in the end of the series, where it's very much a mirror to Rand, but like one that's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah. And thank you, Ben and Chiad, for putting our guests' information in chat. Please, yes, follow these wonderful people, Jessica Sedai, at Shelf Indulgence on TikTok, and Chat King Rajesh Mori is so prolific on Twitter. Although the profile pic changing is it can get confusing at times. I think is Grogu nowadays? Is it the Grogu?
I came back from Morden because of the show, but
right,
yes, I'm quite insane when changing profiles and faces very rapidly.
But thank you guys. This was awesome. I had a lot of fun talking about Ishamael, and thank you thank you everyone in chat. Thank you everyone for watching, and our wonderful call tonight. But I think I'm looking forward to more show stuff. We finally got a little bit this week. Just want to get more show stuff now. I think we've done a lot of book stuff here and deep dives in the last couple of months, and I want to start doing some show stuff. So hopefully we get something in the next few weeks, and hopefully by JordanCon we get something.
Absolutely, that would be amazing.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Dana Lou, mug giveaway. Wow, thank you. I had totally forgotten. Nice, thank you. We need the mods here. All right, so you guys know the drill. Let's see here. If I know how to do this, I should know how to do this. Okay, so yes.
So I would share my final thoughts if I could while you get.
Yes.
Is that all right, Anna?
Yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
So I wanted to, just because what you shared, Morden, it's similar but different. The getting ready for tonight and doing my homework, so to speak, I hadn't really looked at Ishamael as a continuum, like as a whole, and all the pieces that go into it. So one of the things that I really like about it and resonated with me, because like I said, by the time I got to the end of A Memory of Light, I very much had sympathy for Moradin, was that as I was going through the books, it wasn't until this week that I realized that he went through just as much as Rand. So had just a really powerful arc and an amazing kind of transformation. And again, like I said, it resonated for me because that explains why by the end I had sympathy for him and was hoping that he could find peace. Was that he reminded me of Rand in that way, that he had already gone through a lot as well.
So yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's a journey that more like that person goes through, and I think what you mentioned before about mirroring Rand and Morin, like they're literally linked. So that is like it's more than just metaphorical. There's a literal link right there. I think you should yes, it should be started. So exclamation raffle. I don't know if it actually shows up that the raffle has started. So go ahead and put that into chat, and you should be able to win this mug then.
I don't see anyone putting raffle in chat.
Yes.
though.
Yeah. Exclamation raffle. Let's see.
Are you sure the chat bot started?
Yes, it definitely did. I can see it. Yes, it was definitely there, but it shows that it's actually it's there on my end, that it's
Well, people are putting
great.
them in now.
Yep, I see it now. Good. Yep. So keep putting it in. Yep, I see it. Perfect. Good. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to more show news. I did show, the one thing they released. Hopefully they show us more, and actual season 2 stuff. I'm looking forward to What Idol. I think that will be a lot of fun coming up. And
So much fun.
we haven't decided
wait.
if we'll be back next week, but we might have a chill night at the end next week, and maybe do a little bit of hype for What Idol. We'll just have to decide that. And I think just maybe looking at some things like that would be fun. And I see people. Let me give this another minute, and then I will.
Yeah, we only get like 5, not even 5. I mean, a 1 second shot of Ishii in the season 2 sizzle reel, and he's still very calm and cool in what little we've gotten in that. I don't want to call it trailer, but I call it the sizzle reel. But
Yeah.
but I like what you said, and I hope we see him go a little more, less cool and calm.
Yes, I think by the end of the season, you want to
It's
see.
inevitable.
Sorry, Jess, what did you say?
Oh, I just said I think it's inevitable. Sorry.
Oh yeah, yes, no, I hope so. All right, let's give another 10 seconds, and let me see. All right, yeah, I see showing up here. All right, let's see. Aiden True Faith, congrats! You have won a Dusty Wheel mug. Reach out to us on Discord, on social media, and the way I'm still doing it is I will send you a mug, and just reach out to me, and we'll make that happen. And congrats. Yep. Yes.
Congrats.
All right. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Dana Lou, for reminding me to do that. That is important. And I'm excited, guys. The What Idol coming up hopefully soon. Hopefully more news and things like that. We finally got a deleted scene. I think that's good. And thank you guys for being here tonight and talking Ishii with me.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for having
having
me.
us.
All right. Okay. All right. So as we say around here, good night from the Dusty Wheel, and smash the black.
Welcome to the Dusty
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. You went right to kill it. Look at you, you're all ready. You're just done. I mean, this is like this is
out
one
really
of the
well.
biggest scenes.
And now I'm like, great, my turn.
And if you don't like that and you want to say, well, Robert Jordan could have made the 2 rivers all white. He could have, but he didn't. So
Jess complimented me on my dress, and as you can clearly see, I'm
Sad.
not wearing one.
I see Nakomi as something along the lines of a Shadar Haran analog.
it does make sense why it outlasted the breaking. is
Yeah.
all I'm saying. See, this is why I have Therese in the show, because she's going to correct everything that
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dusty Wheel Show. What? Meme Off Challenge. Yay!
Terrible, like baby face mounted on like a huge body. So like all
This
of
is
a
not
sudden,
just
it's like,
a traditional fantasy, right? There are sci-fi
And
elements.
just a moment
for those that are
ago,
kind of interested.
Rafe tweeted something. So let me get my guest in here with me. And
Probably, I would say, put in 70, 80% of the work. I got to be over the shoulder and be like, no,